L World at Middle World 1 YouTube channel. Swallowed Star 2, Origin Continent. Volume 8, The Battle of Yulan City. Chapter 334 Ending. 29th of Volume 8. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The first low-level Hunyuan lifeform legion, which was heavily wounded by Luo Feng, tried its best to escape. But the other three legions, though also retreating, still found time to unleash wanton slaughter along the way. Wherever they passed, entire regions of cultivation caves residents were reduced to ruins. The practitioners had no power to resist and were slaughtered without mercy. In order to put enough pressure on the practitioners, when Senior Yuan and his companions created the Nine Rivers Holy Realm, they intentionally set the power balance so that low-level Hunyuan lifeforms would vastly surpass practitioners. This was meant to apply pressure and temper the practitioners. As a result, most practitioners lived in the safety of cities. And once those cities fell, only massacre awaited them. Damn it! Luo Feng's eyes were cold as he moved through the rift between heaven and earth, already closing in on the Second Legion. This Second Legion had over 800 Perfection Stage God Emperors and 12,000 Late Stage God Emperors. Among the four invading legions, it was undoubtedly the most powerful. Despite being surrounded by Luo Feng's formation and those of the Elder Clones, this legion had suffered the least losses so far. Disperse. With a single thought from Luo Feng, the black-green mist covering Yulan City suddenly became thin and transparent, no longer obstructing vision. Now, all four legions could see each other clearly across the battlefield. The formation's mist is fading. I can see the other three legions. At this moment, they noticed, while the first legion was fleeing frantically, the remaining three, especially this second legion, were flying slower, distracted as they continued slaughtering practitioners. The area around the second legion was shrouded in dark, blue mist. Even as the formations of the Elder Clones besieged them, a massive, furry claw emerged from the void without warning, an enormous, divine paw that tore through layers of defensive barriers, covering the vast legion below. After all, their defense capability is limited. The enormous claw instantly pierced through one protective layer after another, slicing through countless low-level Hunyuan lifeforms. These low-level Hunyuan lifeforms, whether they were late-stage God Emperors or Perfection Stagger God Emperors, all were ripped apart on contact, their life cores shattered. The claw, imbued with spatial energy, collected the fragments and remains of the slain low-level Hunyuan lifeforms as it withdrew. Repel it. Panic erupted throughout the legion. They could no longer think of slaughter, they could only rally together to drive away the terrifying claw. 17 leader level and 213 core clan members died. The second legion was shocked when they quickly calculated the damage. The formations had never posed a threat to leader level elites before, mainly targeting ordinary core clan members and never killing more than one or two at a time. The losses were mounting, but not alarming. But now, leaders were dying in batches. The leader level elites are the backbone of the entire legion's leadership. Losing so many to a single strike, who wouldn't panic? It's Luo Feng's secret treasure, the Celestial Claw. We can't pinpoint Luo Feng's exact location. This secret treasure is too powerful and unpredictable. We can't lock onto it, and we can't destroy it. At best, we can barely fend it off. Even with over 800 Perfection Stage God Emperors among their ranks, these low-level Hunyuan lifeforms were helpless against Luo Feng. The power of the Palm Realm, a technique empowered by his immortal heart, was overwhelming. Moreover, what made it worse, Luo Feng wasn't just using brute force. He activated secret patterns within the Palm Realm to unleash these techniques. Luo Feng's mastery of technique far surpasses even the Tao of a late-stage God Emperors. To these low-level Hunyuan lifeform beings, who rely solely on brute force, Luo Feng's claw was a mystical, incomprehensible force. They couldn't even detect Luo Feng's massive claws, let alone defend against them. The colossal claw struck again without warning, as tearing through the rear of the formation, claiming over 2,000 more lives in an instant. Their leader, Luo Ji, was also taken down, along with more than 10 other leader-level entities. Boom. 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 The claw descended again and again, Luo Feng showing no mercy. With the aid of the Heavenly Formation and Elder Clones formations, the Second Legion had no way to counterattack. They could only watch as their comrades fell, their numbers dwindling by the second. This can't go on. If this continues, not a single one of us will escape. Far in the distance, the Third and Fourth Legions, now able to see clearly through the faded mist, witnessed Luo Feng's unrelenting attacks on the Second Legion. The sight chilled them to the bone. Once Luo Feng finishes off that legion, he'll come for us next. At his current rate, it won't take long to wipe them out. We have to flee. Full speed, no distractions. We can't afford to keep slaughtering. If we don't give it our all to escape, none of us will survive. The mentality within the Third and Fourth Legions shifted completely. Just moments ago, they still believed that with their full strength even while distracted by slaughter they could escape, and their commanders would survive. But now, if they didn't flee immediately, they would die without question. In a single breath, the 3rd and 4th legions reached a consensus. We've already killed enough. Enough. Stop. Run. If we die here, what use is bloodline evolution? They knew that freedom was impossible, their rampage had been too brief. But some, having killed enough, still had a chance at bloodline evolution. Yet that required one thing above all, survival. Whoosh. Whoosh. The 2 legions abruptly ceased their slaughter and began fleeing at full speed. The practitioners around them, once consumed by despair, now looked on in astonishment. We're alive. The low-level Xuanhuan life legions have stopped the slaughter, they're fleeing. The practitioners quickly realized, something or someone had forced these invaders to retreat. And it had to be the strongest entity in Yulan City. 2 of the 4 legions have stopped slaughtering and started fleeing. Luo Feng observed from afar. It was exactly as he hoped. He had made the mist transparent so the remaining legions could witness the fate of the 2nd legion. If terror drove them to flee, more of them might escape. But at least more practitioners would survive. Boom. Luo Feng continued his merciless attacks on the 2nd legion. With the 3rd and 4th legion in full retreat, he could now devote himself fully to their annihilation. The colossal claw struck again and again, descending without mercy. Luo Feng, stop. If you don't give us a chance to live, if you keep pushing us, we will slaughter every last practitioner before we fall. We will kill without restraint. Even if our entire legion is wiped out, we will take millions with us. Voices echoed through the air as the 2nd legion halted its retreat, assuming an all-out offensive posture. Luo Feng frowned, and the massive claw he had summoned slowly retracted. It would take time to completely annihilate the 2nd legion, and in that time, they truly could massacre millions of practitioners. Luo Feng understood that their threat was not an empty one. As the immense claw vanished, a collective sigh of relief spread across the 2nd legion's surviving members. He's finally stopped. Even if we have to perish with him, at least he hesitated. We will cease our slaughter if you vow to no longer attack us. A leader of the 2nd legion shouted. The Yulan City formation will continue to suppress you, Luo Feng replied coldly. But I'll stop the secret treasure's attacks. Good. We believe you. The 2nd legion had no other choice but to trust him. Move quickly. The remnants of the legion, over 500 perfection stage God Emperor level beings and 7,000 late stage God Emperors, fled at full speed, battered and severely weakened. Now, all 4 legions were fleeing Yulan City at full force. None dared to kill any longer. Luo Feng's numerous clones stood high above the city, silently watching the retreating legions. With Lord Luo Feng as our city master, even the elders of the 9 Rivers Holy Realm can rest easy. Compared to the Dark Holy Realm, the practitioners of the 9 Rivers Holy Realm were drastically weaker overall. But Luo Feng, whose power stood at the top level even in the Dark Holy Realm, was unstoppable here. More than 16 million practitioners had perished within Yulan City. Luo Feng, as its master, instantly determined the scale of the tragedy. Early infiltrators had caused relatively minor casualties. But when the 4 legions stormed in and began their rampage, even Luo Feng's best efforts couldn't prevent mass slaughter. So many practitioners dead, and you expect to walk away alive? Luo Feng's eyes turned ice cold. At that moment, the core formation of Yulan City roared to life. Luo Feng was now engraving the 2nd layer of the formation, reaching its final stage. He had only broken through to late stage God Emperor after the city was breached, and only then had he begun laying the first formation. Just as the invading legions reached the city's core area, he completed the first layer. Then, as the legions began to withdraw while continuing their massacre, Luo Feng completed the 2nd. Boom. The 2nd formation layer harmonized perfectly with the first. Done. With a single thought, Luo Feng activated it. The once black and blue skies of Yulan City dimmed. The formations thickened and condensed into murky, chaotic mist that enveloped and suppressed the fleeing legions. No. All 4 retreating legions felt the surge of power. The chaotic mist intensified, breaking through protective barriers and unleashing invisible killing force. The formations gotten stronger. Much stronger. Hold on. They fought desperately to resist, but the unseen attacks continued to reap lives by the dozens with every passing breath. Why is this formation so terrifying? They couldn't even attempt to perish together. Because just defending against the formation LM had already exhausted all their strength. If they lowered their guard even for a moment, they'd be swallowed alive. Hold on. As members continued to fall, their defensive formations began to fracture. The chaotic mist surged into the interior through every breach, claiming even more lives. Hurry, hurry. Break through. The 1st Legion, which had fled earliest, was now nearing the city's edge. Despite heavy losses, they pushed forward desperately. With each moment came more casualties, but finally, they broke past the boundary of Yulan City. We survived. We made it out alive. The First Legion rejoiced with wild elation. But barely 300 perfection stage god emperors and over 4,000 late stage god emperors remained around. Only half of their forces had survived. Outside the city, where Luo Feng could no longer leverage the formation, they were finally safe. To think we were the first to be struck by Luo Feng's attacks and yet we're the ones who lived. The legion members were dazed, peering through the chaotic haze. Through it, they saw the other 3 legions continuing to suffer tremendous casualties. But those 3 were still far from the city's edge. They won't make it out. A quick estimate confirmed their fears. Let's go. Without hesitation, the battered First Legion turned and fled into the distance. Because they clearly knew that the remaining legions, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, would never make it out of Yulan City alive. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Middle World 1 YouTube channel. Asterisk 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 asterisk